I know you talk about your brother a lot, and you mentioned in the book how you never made it a point to make fun of other people based on things that they could not control. But you also mentioned the fact that you experienced that a lot. And specifically in middle school, not so much in high school, but specifically in middle school. So you kind of hit on bullying a little bit. So I guess what I kind of want to know, and that contributed to those mental valleys. So all these things are kind of like flowing in together. I kind of want to know how, because you don't really go into this that much in the book, how you kind of got over that. Because as much as we would like to say, oh, don't bully, don't tease, don't do that, the reality of the situation is there are going to be people who are going to say things that you are not going to like, things that may or may not even be true. But how do we counteract that without trying to force the entire generation to change what they've been doing for decades?
Right. I can only really speak to how I got over it. Now I'm defined by Christ, man, not by what anybody else says. It sounds like a cliche, particularly when you're in the 8th or 9th grade. Those things don't really work. For me, I just got more comfortable with myself, man, and I can't really say that it was any particular moment that made me feel comfortable with. No. I mean, it was a gradual slugfest. Like, only after I've been hurt so much am I just like, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna be me and accept me type of thing. You know, for me, the big thing that really helped out with that was football.
Okay. But that wasn't until like high school, right?
Yeah, it was. So all the middle school, it was just like this constant struggle, constant bullying, constant, you know. And then football came along and really, I mean, changed my life in so many different ways. I can't even really describe it. I mean, I think, and sometimes people look at my passion and my love for like football and sports and they think it's, you know, in the wrong place, or they think it's a little too much. And, you know, I'll never apologize for how much I love the game, because, man, that game saves lives, you know. It saved my life, you know what I mean? And I talk about a little bit in the book, just some of the things that were going on in my mind before I got to high school and started playing. But, you know, when I started playing football every day, you know, I had a particular goal in mind, you know, and that was to get better. And it was to get stronger, it was to get faster, it was to not let my teammates down, you know, it was to learn the playbook. You know, all those things for me gave me purpose at a time where I felt like my life didn't have purpose, you know, and it made me feel like somebody who people wanted to be around, and gave me family, you know, when I didn't have family. You know, when my dad left, you know, I had football. You know, when my mother was working 14 hours a night, I had football. You know, when people would make fun of me or whatever, I had my teammates to step up and back me up. You know, when people try to tell me I'm little or that I'm insignificant, you know, I mattered when I was in the backfield about to take a snap. So those things just taught me a lot, just about life and about security and about being comfortable with myself. So I'd never apologize for it, because I mean across this country, you know, in inner cities, wherever you find people in the country, you know, this game is saving people's lives, and you know, it did that for me. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because you mentioned the fact that if people feel like they're always losing, they'll never want to have the desire to win. However, I almost see the opposite, especially if you talk about the inner cities, and not necessarily inner city, because everyone needs salvation, everybody needs what you're talking about in this book, but they're deciding to win in other areas that aren't as productive. So if you were to have to speak before a board and kind of convince them to start a football program, or to start, you know, a program in their local area, what are some of the major points that you would tell them so that they would know how important it is to the community to, how important it is to the community to have those extracurricular things? And even if it's not football, but, you know, maybe it's an art class, or maybe it's, and again, a lot of arts and sports programs are being cut from schools. You know, and it's almost like they're cutting out an outlet for not just inner city, but for like all youth. Yeah. So what is like one main point that you would tell someone? I'll help you out. What's the one main point that you would tell someone to try to convince them that no, these programs that you think are extracurricular, that aren't necessary, really are necessary, and here's why? Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to grow up in a school district that is pretty well funded, Cobb County in Georgia, and Osborne High School is probably seen as one of the probably the worst school in the county, but it produced me and a lot of other great people. And so if I was in that situation, I would say, look at me, you know, and look at some of the things I have accomplished. And I don't want to say that in a narcissistic way, but, you know, I was a black guy, you know, supposedly coming from the worst school in the county, goes on to graduate, you know, cum laude from University of West Georgia, graduates from law school. Look at me and all my accomplishments. I wouldn't be here without football. Like, I would not be standing here. Like, I would be under the ground without football, without arts. You know, like, writing and sports is what got me through a very difficult time in life.
Is it writing?
Writing, yeah. Yeah, a time in life where, you know, I didn't have the mental capabilities to work through things in ways I do now, you know. So for me, when I was at my lowest points, it's just like, I don't feel like being here. I don't feel like being here on earth anymore. And, you know, without sports, without arts, without culture, I would not be here. And who knows how many people are going to read this book and be impacted. You know, the goal is that it'll be a lot, you know, who knows. But if one person picks it up and it inspires them to either come to salvation or to live another day, you know, it's worth it. And that's what I would tell them. You know, how many other young men are there out there like me whose lives can be changed, who can choose a sport over you know, sitting on the block selling drugs, you know, who can, you know, instead of going home and you know, sleeping around, and have practice and be around men and women who are going to inspire them and encourage them to be better. And so, you know, we spend money on so many other things, and oftentimes we leave our kids out on the street to dry. That would be my pitch, man, is I wouldn't be here without it. And I know so many other young men and women like me.